Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today we're going to take a look at two of DC Collectibles' new figures for their new 52 line. Both figures are part of the Earth 2 subline, and we're going to look at Superman and Batman. And both figures come packaged in your standardized DC Collectibles window box type packaging. You've got the Earth 2 logo up at the top, then you've got the figures clearly displayed in the window. And for Superman you have white and blue borders, and for Batman you have white and dark gray blackish borders. Then on the one side of the packaging you have the darkened in images of the characters, and then on the other side of the packaging we have a look at the actual figures, and then it tells us that both figures were based on artwork by Nicholas Scott, and that both figures were sculpted by Steve Kiwas. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then on the back of the packaging we have little thumbnail images for each figure, along with little brief bios, and then a look at other figures in the Earth 2 line. So the Wonder Woman figure, which is already out, and then the upcoming Hawkwoman figure. Okay, so let's get these figures open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so we'll start off by looking at the Earth 2 Superman figure, and out of the two figures that we're looking at today, this one is my least favorite. There's a few issues with the paint apps on this one. First off, on his ankle, you can see where paint has rubbed off on the hinge joint, and it seems like the paint kind of flakes off easily on this figure, more so than previous released DC Collectible ones. And then another issue I have is there's this weird discoloration going on with the skin tone on his one fist. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but it's a very kind of red pigment that's kind of like showing up. And even somewhat on his face, you know, it almost seems like the skin tone is a little too red. And then the main thing I don't like about this figure is just the overall look of the face sculpt. It just really looks nothing like Superman to me. Almost looks a little too feminine, and really looks different than the picture. You know, the face sculpt we see in the picture on the packaging and the promo images. I just don't think the head sculpt or the face sculpt on this one came out very good. Otherwise, the figure looks pretty decent. He's got the big shield, which is metallic paint, shines, picks up the light nicely. It's pretty cool looking. He's got that same metallic paint for his belt and his wristbands, and then again they use that metallic paint on his boots. And then for the rest of the figure, it's basically a pretty flat blue, sky blue. The cape is sculpted with that same kind of rubbery material that we see with most of the DC Collectible figures. Now the figure itself is also a little bit, comes off to me as a little bit scrawny, especially compared to like the new 52 regular Superman figure. You can see it's just a much taller and bigger built figure than this Earth 2 version. I don't know if in the comics the Earth 2 Superman's a bit scrawnier or not. I haven't read it that much, but to me it just looks more almost like Superboy than Superman. The figure stands at about 6.5 inches tall, not quite 7 inches. And then articulation on this figure is not the greatest either. It's a little bit better than like the first new 52 Superman figure, but certainly not as good as many of the other figures we've been seeing recently from DC Collectibles. The head is on a ball joint, so he's got some left. He can look left and right without any problems. Got some down movement. Can't really look up. Can't really get him in good flying poses. Does have, you know, can kind of pivot to the left and to the right. But would be nice if you could have him look up more so you could get him into some flight poses. Ball hinge joints for the arm. He's got the bicep swivel, which is good. He's got a single hinged elbow, and then he's got a swivel at the wrist. No midsection joint. I originally thought he was going to have a swivel at the waist. It almost looks like he's supposed to, but mine at least will not turn at all, and I've really given it a good hard turn. So I don't think it's meant to have a swivel at the waist, but it does look like maybe there was going to be or something. I don't know. Ball joints for the legs, can do the splits about that much. Can really can't do his legs forward without popping it off the ball joint. So kind of restricted movement there. You can kind of do it out and forward if you wanted to. Same with the back movement. No thigh swivel. Single hinged knees. So he's got about that much bending at the knee. And then he does have a swivel at the boot cuff, and he does have the hinge at the ankle. So he's got the up and down movement at the ankle. And then he has 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. Look at Batman real quick here, and I definitely like the Batman figure better than Superman. More detail, no real problems with the paint apps or anything. I love the way the bat belt looks. Now, one small issue, I guess, with the paint is it doesn't seem like they connected the yellow part of the strap that's painted on the figure that goes from his holsters for his bow sticks up to his belt. So there's this gap missing on both sides where I would assume the belt should, the strap should connect to the main bat belt, but it does not. And you can't really, even if you'd have to get the legs pushed so far forward if you wanted to kind of connect. So I think they should have made these little straps, paint the yellow to go up a little bit farther on the figure's legs. But otherwise, it's a pretty good paint job. I like the wash on the belt. I like the sculpted bat symbol on the belt buckle. He's got spikes on his shoulders, which are nice. He's got kind of like the steel bat symbol with the straps that come down that are sculpted on. He's got like the big, not your traditional Batman gloves, but he's got, almost looks like a knight, something a knight would wear. And then for like the costume itself, there's some patterning on there to give it texture, which looks pretty good. The cape is, again, like with Superman, that same kind of flexible, leathery type material. The cape goes all the way down to the basically touches the ground. Superman didn't come with any accessories, but Batman does come with 2 his little nightstick things, which he can hold in either hand. They're basically all black with a little sculpting for the handles on them, and they have the holsters that they'll fit in these side holsters, which is kind of cool. So Batman stands just under 7 inches tall, and you can see he's taller than the Earth 2 Superman by a little bit. Articulation on Batman, again, is not the greatest we've seen, especially on recent Batman figures. Heads on a ball joint can look left and right, not a little bit of down movement, little bit of up movement, more than Superman. Again, has that kind of pivot there. Ball hinge joints at the shoulder. Now the spikes on his shoulder pads kind of prohibit him from putting his arms out a little bit, so that's about as far out as you can get the arm. It does have the bicep swivel, single hinged elbow. However, this figure does not have any wrist swivel, so because of the way the gloves are sculpted, so there's no swivel or hinges on the wrist at all. No midsection articulation, no swivel at the waist or anything. And then this figure has just a T-crotch design, so you can't do the splits at all with this figure, so that's kind of a little disappointing. He's got swivel at the knee, or at the thigh basically, just below the strap of the holster for his bow stick. He can get his leg forward pretty good. So even though he's got the T-crotch, he can actually get his leg forward a little bit better than Superman, and then back as well. Single hinged knee, so he can bend his knee about that much, and then he's got a swivel at the boot cuff, and then he's got the hinge at the boots, so he's got the up and down movement. Though be cautious, because at least with my figure, it's very stiff. Those joints seem to be very stiff. And then he has 1 peg hole in the bottom of his feet, and you can see they've sculpted some treads on the bottom of his feet as well. So that's my review. Overall, articulation on these are a little disappointing, especially compared to what we've been seeing with a lot of the figures recently released by DC Collectibles. I definitely like the Batman figure better than the Superman figure. I just don't really like the face sculpt on this Superman figure. But you know, if you're collecting the Earth 2 line, then you may definitely want to pick both of these up. This is obviously the second Batman in the Earth 2 line that we've gotten. This is the Bruce Wayne Batman, as opposed to the previous one we got, which was Thomas Wayne. And then this is good Superman. I don't know if we'll get an evil Superman eventually or not, but again, both of these figures are hitting shelves now. So if you at comic and specialty shops, so if you want to pick them up, then start looking now. And that's my review. And until next time, I'll check you later.